Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, Ricky Starks released by AEW.
Miro released by AEW.
Malakai Black released by AEW.
And Keith Lee revealed to be backstage at AEW.
Hey, some good news at the end of the video. I'm Andy.
I'm Michael.
And this is the news. Right, AEW, they released a bunch of people who didn't want to be there yesterday. So that's positive. We're going to go through them kind of one by one situation. I'll just talk about their circumstances and their careers and their time in the company and all of that stuff. And we'll start this one off by talking about Ricky Starks, because his was maybe the most, certainly in the public eye, the most protracted of these. It wasn't like Miro, it seems, has been on and off TV for about 3 years, but Ricky, it's been about a year since his dispute with the company started. He's gone. He's released, let go by AEW. PW Insider confirmed this. A mutual agreement was made. Ricky is gone. Fightful have some extra details on Mr. Absolute. He had asked AEW in late 2023 to not pick up an option on his contract. It was due to expire in spring of 2024, so he wanted out then, presumably. AEW did pick that option up, but then they just didn't use them after that period. Apparently, he was still open to working and seeing out his deal, but AEW opted not to do that. They obviously blocked him from working some GCW shows, and his deal would have been up in a couple of months anyway. So with Ricky, we've seen him work House of Glory. We've seen him work Defy. In fact, he dethroned Kenta as the Defy champion this weekend. So when I saw that, I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Has something occurred? Maybe, I don't know if the two things are linked. I'm just, speculating. He's not been used since he was in the tag team with Big Bill. They were tag team champions. There was all kinds of scuttlebutt came out about this man. Stuff about him turning down creative, which he has denied. Stuff about him being injured, which he has also denied. In fact, he had a great interview with our colleague Andrew Pollard, our friend and colleague Andrew Pollard, the very tallest man alive, by the way.
Yeah.
He's a giant. Last year, where he spoke very candidly about this stuff. It's a really good interview. I'd urge you to check it out if you've not seen it. But yeah, Ricky, very obviously extremely talented dude. We know he's a Cody Rhodes friend. We know he didn't want to be there. And in my view, look, I've got a controversial opinion on these things, Michael Hamflett.
Okay.
I think that if someone wants to quit their job, they should be able to do that. And look, I understand that you don't want to just be handing talent. And look, I understand that people sign a contract and they have these terms and they agree to the terms when they sign. I get it, but I would dispute that maybe some of these terms are a little bit weighted not in the favour of these independent contractors. I think we're going to say similar things about all three of these guys. Look, if they don't want to be there, they should be allowed to leave, is my take.
Yeah, it's a funny week for this news to break in AEW, because all the names we're going to talk about, as you point out, are ones that we kind of speculated on, have been invited to speculate on for a long time now, but in a week of some WWE releases, it's a reminder, as you say, that both ways you cut it, the contracts are weighted against the performers. Some, in WWE's case, are wrestlers that were contracted for longer, that were released before those contracts were completed. Some, in the case of these wrestlers, wanted to go and were unable to. You don't get to win if you're an independent contractor, and it does always feel like everything tends to favour the promoters and the billionaires in these cases. So it is nice, at least, when the wrestlers get their freedom the way they want it, rather than maybe getting it somewhat unexpectedly when a contract is brought to an end sooner.
Exactly. There's a big difference between being let go before your deal's over. That's a really brutal thing, especially if you don't want to go. The contract coming to an end and you going your separate ways, which is another different situation, because look, you have both fulfilled your agreement. And stuff like this, where people want to go, they're not allowed to go for a period, and then they are let go. It's like I personally think you should just what use is there in keeping unhappy people around, right? Surely that just poisons your locker room. Even if they're not at shows, they're going to be in the group chats going, Tony said blah 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 blah. Just let them go.
Well, I guess in happier news, but another exit, I guess, because we are talking here about mutual agreements. Miro has come to a mutual agreement with AEW for the two sides to finally part ways. Again, a lot of similarities to the Ricky Starks situation. Feels like something we've been talking about for a very long time, the possibility of this happening. And yes, it was confirmed on Monday. It was PW Insider that came through with it first. That was also confirmed by Dave Meltzer, that the two sides have been able to come to an agreement, and Miro is gone. Again, feels so familiar. He has not wrestled since 2023 and hasn't wrestled at all in 2024. You may remember his last match against Andrade at World's End in what at the time felt like a derby between two men that were both off.
It's like Brock versus
Goldberg. At WrestleMania. It was like the fans seemed to know that both were going to be going, but obviously Andrade would then go on to debut at the Rumble and Miro went AWOL for another 12 months. Well, maybe not anymore. He worked sort of a series of matches at the back end of 2023 as part of the Collision split when it did feel like there was a bit more of a divide. 6-7 matches. You may recall his then wife CJ Perry came in at All Out in the summer and they kind of worked an on-off storyline together that again never really had any kind of climax as everything just ground to a halt with Miro again. Fightful Select have come through with a few extra details on this to note that there had been discussions around some possible creative for Miro in 2024. He's been healthy, he's been cleared to wrestle, again, like Ricky Starks. But Fightful noted that he'd asked for his release quite a while ago and has obviously only now managed to get it. The situation had gone, quote, radio silent for quite some time before the release was made official. Miro wasn't being brought up creatively for the last 6 months or so, and almost everyone Fightful had spoken to in AEW hadn't expected to see him again, to your point about, I guess, like locker room unrest. There was a long-term contract extension in early 2022 when the garden was obviously a little bit rosier that could have kept him in AEW till 2026, but I guess in this case they've agreed to call it here. Seems like it suits both parties fine, this one.
Yeah, definitely. There was a report not so long ago about, I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that he'd asked to be let go or something like that along those lines. He just feels like he's not been prominent for about 3 years now. Like the CJ stuff wasn't great, I don't think. But the TNT title, the Redeemer stuff, all of that, I thought that was excellent TV. There's a school of thought with Miro that this was a limited time run and it was a finite thing, and that it had to be short term with that character. I completely disagree. I think that's nonsense, in fact. I think that when you have a monster heel and you establish that he's an upper mid-card guy and you establish that he has a weakness, core thing. Because the problem with monsters is that it's hard to beat them. Because they're a monster, right? They've got to win. But when you establish with Miro that he is a monster with an Achilles heel, he's got a bad neck that people can target. Even people like Fuego del Sol target that neck. Gives you an avenue to beat him. You can build him up and knock him down millions of times. And if he's good, and he was really good at his peak, I'm not saying he's declined. We just haven't seen him wrestle in a while. I think he could have done so much more longer term with Miro. Either he didn't want to do that, or they didn't want to do it, or they had nothing for him creatively, or he pissed people off, or maybe the other way around. Maybe they pissed him off. I don't know. Something clearly happened. He's been trying to get out for ages. He's a guy who, even when he was in WWE, was like on Twitter, like going, teasing that he was unhappy. He's a little sneaky boy on the old socials sometimes.
He speaks up for himself.
He does.
In all the little ways he's able to do so within his contract.
And I kind of admire. I kind of love that stuff. Honestly, it's kind of fun.
With Miro, because the run was so great, the TNT title run in 2021, when AEW was just firing on all cylinders, and it stands to reason that the re-signing in 2022 would occur when things were much nicer between the two sides. It has sort of given me pause for thought, like, because there's all three have dropped in the same day, and then you get WWE releases when talent just go cold after a certain amount of time. I wonder if there's like just a wider conversation on like a bit more sophistication in negotiations around contracts. Like we just default to 3 years and 5 years and things like that. We talk about bookers having runs, wrestlers do too. Like the era, we're still kind of finding our way through this era of two mainstream companies 5 years in. And the idea of a bit more fluidity in these contracts and thinking, well, let's look at a year and see how that year goes and then review in a year's time. I don't know. I think I understand why wrestlers want the bag. I understand why companies want to secure their talent. The 3 and the 5 year thing kind of like keeps everybody settled a little bit. But sometimes in an industry like wrestling, you want a bit of sense of like a bit more ability to move, a bit more freedom. Would any of this have occurred if at the end of his 2021 run, Miro was like, this was amazing, but I think I'm good. And then let's talk again in a year, and maybe he reopens conversations with WWE, who knows. I don't know, it's with these two in particular, with Starks and Miro, it's just made me wonder if things could have been different for both guys. Because, times are only marches forward, they're getting older. Like primes can disappear from view. We've seen it with countless wrestlers when like WWE were going through their warehousing era in like the late 2010s. I don't want a lot of these wrestlers to miss their primes because they're locked in deals that they're not getting the best out of. It's just one of them things, I suppose, with there being so much competition now for talent.
I think part of it is that, and why Tony Khan gets a lot of hate from a lot of people. I think one thing that's probably universally positive about Tony Khan is that he is genuinely a benevolent guy towards the business, right? He wants to give people jobs, and he wants to help people earn a good living in wrestling, and I think he takes that very seriously, and I think that's very admirable. So I think that's one of the reasons why his contracts are so long, oftentimes 5 years, 3 years, whatever, is because he wants to look after people a little bit. He wants to create an alternative.
He pays almost all them through. There's been so few
exactly.
releases,
And maybe that feeds into why he doesn't let people go. AEW is not a company that generally cuts people against their will. There's a few notable exceptions. Your Jimmy Havoc's, where there are obviously larger outside situations contributing to it. And Big Swole. But for the most part, people don't leave unless either they ask to and there's a protracted exit process like this and they're told no, and presumably Ray Phoenix is still in his straitjacket, poor guy. Or the contract expires, the agreement that you agreed to has come to an end and people go their separate ways. No beef with contracts expiring. I think Sonya Deville was a contract expiring situation, right? Whereas obviously just firing people outright, which they generally don't do before their deal is over, is a tougher thing. But yeah, it's a whole world of options to explore for sure. I think I'm looking forward to hearing the Def Rebel version of Miro's theme, Rusev's theme. Rusev, it's matchka time.
Wake up, it's Rusev Day tomorrow.
Da! Da ba ba bum 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 bum. It always goes back to that one.
Rusev Day.
Speaking of themes that I don't want them to mess up,
Streets of Rage.
Let's talk Malakai Black.
Yeah.
Because he's going to go back there too, probably. And he had a great theme last time, and if they mess that up, I will find them.
Malakai Black, Black, Black. With the Malakai Black, you know your house of black. That was the theme, wasn't it?
That's the one that could have a music version of Back in Black by AC/DC.
Alistair Black, hit the sack. Oh, Jesus Christ, he's back.
That's all you need.
Both of those.
The creaky coffin thing. But his Malakai Black, he's gone from AEW to his same situation. He didn't want to be there and they let him go, which they should have done months ago, if you ask me. Don't keep unhappy people around. It's not good.
But he's had 4 separate goodbye retirements.
I'm sorry, goodbye. The old Izuka. Let's go. But PW Insider reported his release first, or his mutual agreement, whatever word you want to use. The AEW have removed him from the roster page, all of this stuff, he is gone. So, Fightful, again, have some extra details here, noting that Malakai had a deal that actually could have taken him well into 2027. According to Tony Khan's own words, a couple of years back, they had reported in December that Malakai would be leaving AEW over the coming months, and by January it was reported he would no longer be on TV. There was some stuff, I think it was Wade Keller, PW Torch, had reported that AEW wanted to add some injury time onto Malakai's deal, and he fought them on it, and that time wasn't added on, which might set a precedent for other people, who knows, to do the same. We'll see. But yeah, Malakai is no longer there. We've already seen on TV that his allies, Julia Hart, Buddy Matthews and Brody King, have moved on. The House of Black is no more. You can't really... It would be tough to do that without the guy who is named after, I suppose. They're now the Hounds of Hell, which I think has been a bit of an image upgrade. They're not really spooky dudes anymore. They're more like hellish. Stone Island jackets and balaclavas instead of antlers and stuff like that. Flames instead of mist is what we're going for. And look, I say that...
Fires of hell instead of the darkness of it.
There you go. The hell and not the abyss. And I say that as a big House of Black fan. Everybody knows that. But yeah, they've already moved on screen. I think he'll go back to WWE as well. There have been rumours of his... And the thing that struck me with this situation with Malakai... Any single time there has been talk, he's leaving, he wants to go, he's unhappy, all this stuff, he has always come out and said no. Immediately, he'll jump on socials and go, stop lying, this is not true. He did not do that this time, and so it's transpired.
Yeah, as you say, I think because there's been stories for long enough, it's allowed the speculation to build more and more and more that he will leave AEW and he could be back. Wherever WWE are, you can maybe expect to see, well, not Malakai, I guess, Alistair Black anytime soon again in the near future. Speaking of being, Murray, where WWE are, We're going to be where WWE are
gosh.
on their UK tour, the What Culture World Tour. The dates are live and available at whatculture.com/tickets. We're going to be in Manchester, Belfast, Glasgow and London. If you're going to go see WWE, come and see us first. It's the best place to meet up and hang out with the wrestling fans. Look, even if you're not going to see WWE, the tickets are mega expensive. Come and see the What Culture Wrestling World Tour instead. All of the dates are behind me on the board there. You can go to whatculture.com/tickets for all the day and tour and showtime information. If you are going to those house shows, don't worry, we're going to give you plenty of time to get to the shows. We're going to have a bunch of live on-stage entertainment, all the daft nonsense you see on the internet from the likes of us and on the podcast channel. Miller's going to be doing live ups and downs. We're going to do live podcasts. It's going to be a great time. Ask anyone online if they love their experiences of What Culture live, and they'll give you good testimonials because we've bullied them into doing so. It's a great time. We thoroughly recommend it. Tickets are still available, and we're going to end the What Culture World Tour at the HyperX Arena in Las Vegas on April the 18th with the biggest SmackDown watch party in all of Las Vegas, a live ups and downs that you can be part of on YouTube, a podcast preview of WrestleMania 41, and what happens at What Culture Live, Murray, stays at What Culture Live. It's the biggest and dumbest and most ambitious thing we've ever done. Join us and get yourself along.
And if you're lucky, you might get some H-Eel-A in there. Hot eel action. Let's go. Anyway.
That guy is ready to see the world again.
Look at him, man. He's frothing. he's slippery. He's electric. He's a flipping eel.
Do you know who else is frothing to see the world again? And slippery and electric.
And an eel.
Keith Lee.
What do you get if you spell Lee backwards?
It's an anagram. It's the secret. It's Keith Eel himself.
Keith Eel.
Keith Eel, also known as Keith Lee to some, not me. Keith Eel backstage at AEW. Right? The polar opposite. Yeah, we love Keith Lee. Yeah. The polar opposite to the three stories we've reported on. Somebody that has been absent for a long time, but will hopefully be on screens again in AEW sooner rather than later. PW Insider reported that obviously he's been out of action a long time, but he was backstage at Dynamite last week for the first time in a long time. He hasn't wrestled at all in 2024, not for contract reasons, obviously for health ones. We always wish Keith Lee our best from all of us here at What Culture. Yeah, there was 19 matches, I think, in 2023, but that too was a period fraught with various health issues.
Yes.
Stuff that he's battled, obviously coming off a serious case of COVID, I think it was, at the back end of the pandemic, and various other injuries and build-up of health issues, such as life being a wrestler and indeed living in the world. But this is a nothing story for right now, but if you're getting yourself backstage and you're getting yourself back amongst the scene, fingers crossed, this means we can expect to see a return for Keith Lee in 2025 after such a long protected time away.
Yeah, this poor guy has had like 4 or 5 just crap years. Health-wise, the COVID stuff in WWE when he uploaded the video because he just kind of vanished from WWE TV for like 6 to 8 months, something like that, a long time. And then when people were like, "Where's Keith? What's going on?" And then when he explained it, I was just like, "Oh my God!" This guy almost died. So he's had to fight back from that to get back in the ring. And now he's had this other issue here that's kept him sidelined as well. And yeah, it's really, really, it just makes me sad. His situation just makes me sad because I've never met Keith Lee, but he radiates niceness.
Yeah.
He seems like a very warm human being and a good human being. Again, I've never met him. This is just how he comes across. And I don't wish these struggles on anyone, but I really feel for him. Who knows if or when he's coming back or anything like that. I think that obviously his health matters more than wrestling, but I'm sure he misses it. And I'm sure the company misses him. And it sucks. It sucks because he's such a talented dude as well. The first time I saw Keith Lee, it blew my wig clean off. He comes out. I was in the Indies, I think maybe Evolve or something. And he's got his own entrance. He did his own entrance music at this time, which I thought was pretty cool. This big dude, presence, aura, commanding, really confident, comes down the ring and his entrance is really slow and deliberate. And he's like, he's just soaking it in and he's like gazing around the arena. You're basking in his glory, all of this stuff. People are loving him. He comes out. Then the bell rings and he starts doing Hurricane Ranas and dies. I'm like, what the hell? This guy rules. Obviously in AEW he's had the Isaiah Cassidy squash was unbelievable. And the Swerve in Our Glory run was really great. Shame they never got to have their blow-off match. I think the ship has definitely sailed on that. I hope he's able to get back. I really do. But more than anything, I hope he's getting to a better place health-wise, because what a crap few years, man.
Yeah, the responsible thing, you're right to point out, is obviously that you wish for someone's sort of well-being and better health rather than anything else for Keith Lee. But obviously when we're talking about it from a wrestling standpoint, what this has done is obviously kind of stalled his momentum over and over again. Like TV wrestling in 2025 and 2024 and the years going back now, like requires like a certain level of insane consistency in order to just like stay in people's minds and hearts and all that sort of stuff. And like it's always been health for Keith Lee that has got in the way of that. Never talent. Never talent, and rarely booking, truthfully, as well. He's often been able to sort of overcome dodgy booking by simply the force of will of his sort of abilities. So it's been these little derailments along the way have tarnished what has been some like amazing runs, but it's always health first. It's always well-being first. So all our very best to Keith Lee, and fingers crossed, if this is a sign of things to come, we do get that like sustained run that I think the big man deserves as well.
He does.
Yeah.
Not really being able to get it going in that singles role, so hey, maybe, hopefully, someday that'll come to fruition. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this video, here's one. It's one secret from every year of modern WWE history. It's doing really well. You're doing really well. I mean, look at that thumbnail. How can you not?
Beautiful.
How can you not slap the porpoise? Shout out to rest in peace, Mike Hogwood, legend. See you later. Bye.